Sometimes when you're a DM, you want nothing more than to see your players triumph over an enemy that is far higher level and can do way more damage than they can, only to realize that maybe it wouldn't narratively make sense. For example, my players finally set out to sea in order to take on the vicious Sahuagin that was terrorizing the coast. But they went without any preparation for undersea combat. Mostly because I, as a DM, usually bring the fight to them, not the other way around. This is because I believe that a hero is a reactive character, whereas a villain is proactive. So, for the most part, heroes don't go seeking a fight, it's usually the fight comes to them. They see a bandit trying to steal a purse, they see, a monster viciously attacking a village. Regardless of how it happens, the players see something happening and then they go take it on. In the case of tonight's adventure, the players were sailing on their ship to the open waters where the Sahuagin live, and they were attacked by Marrow. I had the Marrow do a bit of damage to the underside of the ship, taking it from 100 HP to 55. But when it came time to actually fight the Marrow, I had the Marrow jump up and latch onto the side of the ship so that they could reach over and attack the players. I've been allowing flanking rules for this campaign just to change it up, but this was a way to avoid flanking because the players couldn't float on the side of the ship and attack from behind. So it was kind of an even fight. The Marrow attacked, they attacked, and due to the high HP, the Marrow were able to survive the fight and then eventually lose. It was a good long fight. I decided to change it up when they finally got to the Sahuagin, however, because the Sahuagin are a bit smarter than Marrow, and the Sahuagin have battle strategies. So the Sahuagin themselves waited underneath the ship, using a ready action to attack anyone that came underneath. The Sahuagin Baron, on the other hand, proactively sought out anyone that fell into the water and would attack them viciously. All the while, a Sahuagin priestess would cast Hold Person on anyone who dared enter the water. As a result, the Baron would be able to just wail on them, and honestly, if it weren't for the monk being a tabaxi and having feline agility, he probably would have died in the water. I don't keep track of my player's HP just so that I don't pull my punches or hit too hard if I'm particularly angry at someone. But the Tabaxi monk actually got out of there with 1 HP, and he got back onto the boat, and the druid decided to hop into the water as a shark. So I decided, since Sahuagin can telepathically talk to sharks, that sharks can innately understand the Sahuagin language. This is kind of like how I'm hoping eventually they'll go back to the Bullywug and the druid can turn into a frog, and since Bullywug can innately speak to frogs telepathically, I assume they'll be able to understand each other's languages. That's at least my way of interpreting and homebrewing it. Regardless, the fight with the Sahuagin Baron was a grueling one because none of them wanted to get in the water. There were some very brilliant creativities today, though, because the sorcerer, obviously using sorcery points for a quickened spell, wanted to cast a spell that required the target to hear their character. However, I determined, because of how deep the Sahuagin were underwater, they would not be able to hear the caster unless they themselves went underwater, until the sorcerer cast thaumaturgy underwater. Now, because rules as written and all that, I decided to make at least a performance check just to perfectly mimicry your voice when casting a spell, because otherwise you could use thaumaturgy to cast your spell 300 feet away. You're increasing the range of a spell, and they weren't using it to try and abuse range. They were just using it so that they didn't have to get in the water, being a very squishy caster. So I actually rewarded this with a point of inspiration. Unfortunately, the sorcerer already had inspiration from another event, but that's not the point. The point is, they were very creative, and you should always reward your players when they're creative like that. So the sorcerer was able to damage the Baron underwater by casting Thaumaturgy. It was very cool. It was a very cool combo. Um, the fight kind of ended in a draw. The players decided that because the priestess was able to cast spiritual weapon and hold person, that she must be some kind of cleric, which means some kind of healing spells. As a result, when they did go into the water, they made sure to attack her first. When she dropped to 0 HP, the Baron decided to ignore everything else, to grab her, try to stabilize her, try to heal her, and ordered the rest to retreat. The Sahuagin left, and the players had two things. They had the Sahuagin Baron's tridents, and they had a dead Sahuagin. They managed to kill at least one of them. Also, the sorcerer, with telepathy, was able to glean at least mental images from a Sahuagin that they captured. When they read into its mind, I sort of laid the hints for one of the 5 major adventures in Saltmarsh, where it's like the war between Sahuagin and the other sea races, and I don't know exactly what side they'll take. I'm sure maybe they'll even try to find a peaceful resolution to this. Who knows? But it's more groundwork, it's more hints, and they've actually decided that with the dead body, with the tridents, and they actually ended up letting the Sahuagin they captured go, they are going to try and trick Galen Primewater into thinking they killed the big Sahuagin. If they succeed, they will get paid as promised with a magic item. Which means I now have to think of which magic item they would get, depending on how the conversation goes. In addition to everything that happened today, we actually had a guest. The cleric in the party was not able to play today, so we actually had a barbarian, just a random player who saw that a slot was open. He sat down, he was a barbarian, and my recommendation when you are a DM at a local game store and players come and go randomly is to try and find a very simple and very quick way to get the player in, and then a very simple, very quick way to get the player out. Because in a one-shot scenario, this character won't be an official member of the party. So with this particular adventure, since they were getting on a boat, going to the sea, fighting something, going back home, I just decided this barbarian was hired as a bodyguard. So he got his 40 gold at the end of the adventure, and if he should ever come back to the adventure, I will let him know if there were level ups between then and then, but he has an extra 40 gold in his pocket, so that's kind of nice. That's pretty much all that happened in today's adventure. I'm looking forward to the Galen Primewater, and I will do like a mini time skip for the players, give them like a week where they can do downtime activities, followed by the first official adventure in Saltmarsh, the haunted house that eventually leads to a smuggling ring and all of the stuff that follows from there. I'm going to have to up the power of some of the monsters they face because it's supposed to be a level 1 to 3 and now the players are level 4, but regardless of all that, it should be a pretty good time. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.